So I'm going to jump down. JKT just put this one in. Can you speak a little about the Odiana partnership? And are you still in discussion with other potential VCs? I was on a lot of those calls with Odiana and working out that partnership. So that's not a VC partnership per se. They're a VC platform, but where the discussions happen there is more in line with they see our tools as something that could give them and the projects they incubate as a leg up competitive advantage wise. So we're partnering that way in that they'll be a great feeder for potential gaming and other launch pads. Vulture Peak was one of the launch pads they introduced us to for new partnerships in the future. So they're not a VC that we're speaking to about money, but I know you're speaking to a lot of VCs about investment. Where are we at with that, and what's on there?
Yeah, and if I could, I'll just add one comment to the Adiana thing. Anyone that hasn't done it, go check out their website. As far as backers, they are prolific. Dozens and dozens of projects in their orbit, and so this gives us the ability to essentially go to one place and get connected to dozens of projects all at once. So this is actually not the only arrangement like this that we have in the works. We're talking to another firm that's kind of similar to Adiana in the sense that they have about 15 launch pads that they have incubated or backed, and so we're in conversations with them to do the same thing. Sign one partnership to effectively communicate with a dozen or more new customers for our products. So the Adiana partnership might look a little strange from the outside, but for us, it's actually an incredibly efficient way to start communicating with new customers. Now, on the other side of the VC front, in terms of funding our company, I think I've said this probably 10, 20 times in the last 6 months. We don't talk details while the deals are still open. What I can say is that Bird has taken in its first actual capital injections already. So we've had some money come in. Our target round is looking very good to fully successfully close. I'm not going to get into specific numbers, but the demand that we've seen following Binance Demo Day has exceeded all of my expectations. We have a very long list of potential investors that have expressed interest in Bird, and those conversations are really starting to heat up now. So, I wish we could be a lot more transparent because there's so many exciting and really promising things that have happened around our fundraising efforts, but for the sake of the negotiations and the relationships that we're just now building, we want to be very careful to not get out in front of our skis too much here. So I'm going to be a bit deliberately vague about this, but for anyone that is patient enough to wait for the formal announcements, what I can say is that you will not be disappointed. We've got some really powerful firms that have expressed a lot of interest in us, and it goes a lot further than just money. For folks that haven't really been close to a crypto fundraising effort before, there's thousands of VCs out there that are willing to give you money. A very, very small number of them will give you that money and also provide other support. Things like marketing, legal support, access to talent and other resources. That's where the real wins are. And believe it or not, it isn't the big name firms that everyone's heard of that are really providing that kind of support. So when the dust settles on this, I think you're going to find that we've taken a very unique and potentially extremely beneficial path forward in how we're selecting our financial backers. We're looking for a mix of industry experience and general tech experience because our products can be sold outside of the crypto industry. We're looking for money that's going to bring certain geographic expertise. We've mentioned before that Asia is going to be a big target for us this year. We're in the process, for example, of translating our website and creating some Asian-speaking language channels for our community members. And so, ultimately, the VC effort for Bird is very much in full gear right now. And I think that you're going to find at the end of the day that we've made some very unique and I think intelligent decisions on exactly how we're selecting the people that are going to be backing our company.
And when that round is over and everything's done and money's in the bank, what I think I asked you this on the side the other day. What changes? How does that change your world? How does that change Bird's world?
I mean, I think most specifically, financial backers tend to bring liquidity. It's one of the things they really like to do. So I think one of the most acute changes that we should see following the seed round closure is new injections to our liquidity position, both on decentralized exchanges and centralized exchanges. Investors like that because it benefits them in the long run to have a healthy secondary market. So in specific terms, that's one thing that I suspect may change rather quickly following the seed round close. In general terms, a big thing that goes along with closing this seed round is the ability for us to dramatically increase hiring. So last summer, we did a little round of hiring to bring on more machine learning engineers and more business development associates. When we fully closed this seed round, there are a whole bunch of other roles that we're going to be hiring for. And that puts us in a position to start doing a lot more robust planning and budgeting, which is something that I know the community has really been looking forward to. I've said this a whole bunch of times, but middle of last year, we decided that we were going to do away with our time-bound roadmap and create an ordinal roadmap instead. One where we say, we're working on this first and this second and this third, but we don't know the exact timelines. When we close those rounds and we wrap up all of our onboarding for the new hires, that puts us in a position where we can be a lot more planful for our development process to offer clearer deadlines and clearer timeline expectations to our community. So I do think there's a whole bunch of things that will change following the seed round, and some of them are going to be more visible and I guess objective than others.
So BM just asked, and I know this has come up a bunch, but does that final seed round affect any upcoming sex listings and staking opportunities, lending to come? Like, does it? You mentioned the liquidity in the exchanges. So how is it going to affect that stuff?
Yeah, so I don't know that I have much more to add about liquidity on exchanges. Yeah, I think what I said generally holds. These investors tend to want to put resources towards that. They also tend to have a lot of relationships with those exchanges. So it will accelerate any plans that we have there. Our overall plan for sex listings hasn't changed since our last call. The market is starting to, it seems like, form a bit more of a position, a little less schizophrenic. So it does put us in a position where we can start re-engaging our sex listing partners. I think it's also entirely likely that because we're getting into the middle of our conversation with investors, that they may say to us like, hey guys, why don't you pause on that listing because we think we can do more once we get together. So on the sex listing side, it is still very much a wait and see. I do want to make one quick comment about tier one exchanges. We get this a lot, and I just want to encourage everyone. I'll try to find the link and maybe share it in Discord, but there was a research report that came out recently that looked at the relationship between Horowitz and Coinbase. So, Andreessen Horowitz is obviously one of the biggest VC funds out there, and Horowitz actually sits on the board of directors for Coinbase. And there was a researcher that put together a study that actually showed some very interesting relationships between A16Z and Coinbase. And those relationships tended to actually be very damaging for the projects themselves. So I put this out there really just to offer a bit more of a nuanced perspective to what it means to go onto a tier one exchange in blockchain today. It isn't the very unequivocal clear win that I think many people may see from the outside looking in. From the inside looking out, there's all kinds of really odd things that happen, especially at those top level exchanges. I don't. Yeah, so I'm going to be a bit vague about this because I think it's somewhat sensitive information. But very recently, a project that I know very well was actually listed on Coinbase without their knowledge. Coinbase literally just went and listed them and didn't tell them anything, didn't ask them for tokens to provide liquidity, didn't ask them really much at all. So it's a bit of the wild, wild west out there. And so, we are always going to take a very cautious approach when it comes to working with those giant companies in crypto because, sometimes they're not quite as, shiny and pristine as you might think at first glance. The last question that BM's asked here, any better opportunities for staking and lending to come? Staking, yes. We are very close to making a major announcement around our token and staking and some various other things relating to utility. So for now, the answer is still, unfortunately, have to wait and see. But we are going to be rolling out what I think is going to be a very, very attractive staking program quite soon.
So let's step back from nitty gritty project stuff. Skylar's just asked, can you provide your vision on a future of Web3 and how Bird fits in it? So it's more a big picture question.
Yeah, that is about as big picture as it gets. Listen, we could talk for hours about that, and I want to try to keep this call as sort of tactical as possible. Maybe what we need to do is have like a deep dive into Web3 for folks that are interested in having a more academic discussion about it. But finally said, Bird's vision for Web3 is essentially that we're going to take all of the good in Web2 and leave all the bad behind. And so in this case, the good is the aspects of user targeting that have created a richer online experience. So, the idea that you can log into a search engine, make, a query that has been customized to your personal history and your response, that's a good thing. It's unequivocally a good thing. It saves me time to find what I need. The idea that a platform might be offering me some very divisive, subliminal, potentially fake news stories to influence my thought process, I'm not so sure that's good. So that's one of the main reasons why we're essentially saying, like, hey guys, machine learning on Web 2 worked great, except for a couple of very simple but profound shortcomings. One, the users have no influence whatsoever on what kind of data are going into these models and where those models are being deployed. And that's one of the reasons why you have on the news all of these issues about young women having body image issues, from their experience on Instagram. And then the other problem is these models are making billions of dollars. Their main input to production is our user data, and we're not compensated for that input to production. So I've used the analogy a bunch, and I'll use it again now. It's the same thing as a car manufacturer not having to pay for steel or plastic or aluminum. That's just not a sustainable, monetization model. So we see a future of Web3 is still having all of that rich user targeting where we get these personalized experiences, but we're putting a lot of the power back in the hands of the user around these very powerful, tools called, machine learning algorithms. So like I said, we could talk for hours about how Web3 will evolve and how Bird fits in it, but I think the easiest sort of elevator pitch around that is we are going to be offering the same kind of rich user targeting without the byproducts of overly centralized and potentially very detrimental side effects to these models.
So let's jump